Okie doke. Update on this guy. Uh, Cruising along. Let's take a look. Let's get you zoomed in. We've got a couple of figures. Everything else painted, chipped, decals have been started. Let's look at some of those figures. Get the guy with his pipe. See the faces? The faces are weird. The figure's not too bad, but the faces are just weird. And I see he's got a problem with some of his skin on his arm. I'll have to fix now that the primer's on there. Okay. This guy's supposed to be on top of the tank. And I don't know who he's waving to. Just ridiculous. I could cut his arm off and then swing it down so it's on his knee, which would make a little more sense instead of him waving to somebody a mile away. His other arm has binoculars. And of course we have the guy cooking sausages. That's a good one. So he's sanded and primed. Maybe I'll put some eggs in there. I've got one wheel. I've kind of got them all laid out for painting. So I took one off. I might put a little dark gray chipping effects on it. But I wanted the openings to be holes, or to appear as holes, because the plastic comes right up to there, as you can see. So I painted it flat black, and when it dried it was shiny. And I painted it again. It dried, it was shiny. Like, what's going on? I mean, I could have just hit it with flat, but it was a weird kind of shiny. And then I realized it wasn't just black I was using, it was like metallic black. So had to paint them all over again. And then probably on the tires I'll put some of this dust and grind it in there so that the tires have some sand in them. The turret, which I wish those were open, but you could cut them open, but I'm not going that far. So the chipping, I did the hairspray technique. However, didn't work very well. And there were huge portions of this where it wouldn't work. I put, a brush with water and nothing. I could sit there for 15 minutes with a brush with water and the paint wouldn't come away, and the bottom dark gray layer wouldn't show. So I think I need to put 2 coats of hairspray next time. When I put the hairspray down, it looked wet. The whole model looked wet. But I have a feeling in the hairspray there's a lot of water or something like it as a carrier. So next time I'll spray it with the hairspray, let it dry, give it a second coat. But where it did work, it worked pretty well. So once it didn't work, then I took a sponge of this, cut off a piece, dipped it in a dark gray, and did the rest of the chipping. So worked out alright. These, the exhaust pipes and manifolds, I used Vallejo Rust Texture, which has been sitting on my shelf for, I don't know, 6 years. First time I opened it. Came out nice. The decals, even though they're 50 years old, they look very good. And they went on nicely. However, I had to soak them in water for each one 4 minutes before it would slide off. But once they did, they went on nice. This one, there's a black cross goes in the middle of that. I haven't put that on yet, so that'll go on next. Gas cans. OD green. Then I put a coat of satin finish on it because they are metal cans. And they do look kind of satiny. At least the way I remember them. Alright, so let's go over a couple more things that I forgot to put in the first section of the video. But the chipping that I did on this. So I used, here's the steps. Base gray. That was Vallejo German gray. I didn't use a primer. I normally use a primer, but this time I just used that as the primer. And then I did a flat clear coat to make sure when I was chipping it didn't pull up the gray as well. After that I put the hairspray on, and that's the hairspray I got. It was Aquanet. And again, I think it's good because there were sections of the vehicle that it worked very well. So I'm sure I didn't put enough on, or just didn't do an even coat. So I'm going to do 2 coats next time. Then I put a 50-50 mix of Tamiya, Desert Yellow, and Buff. And then I did the chipping effect. Took a brush with water. Did the best I could on that. And then I did another flat clear to seal everything in. And then I did the manual chipping with a sponge. So that's all of that. And tricky thing is the mix of desert yellow and buff made this like a light tan. It lightened it up, which I thought was the perfect color. And then when I put the flat clear on the final coat, it made it darker. So it's actually a little darker than it appears on camera here. But beware of that. The other thing about this piece is the fit. So you can see the side. If we took the fenders off, because the fenders weren't in play at the time, you put the sidewalls of the vehicle up, and they're tilted, both sides. And so what you wind up with, it's a V, and it's diamond shaped, so it's kind of like on an angle. And I'm like, I had to hope that the top piece would fit. I was sure I was going to have seams, gaps, problems. Once I let that dry and I took the top of it all, and laid it on, it fit perfect. I don't know. It was just perfect. So big points for Monogram on that one. And when I glued, that's basically all it tells you. Put the sides on and put the top on onto the chassis. But what I did with the sides is I only glued one spot. And I used Tamiya extra thin, and I just waited. I held it till it dried, and then I glued the center, held it till it dried, and then I glued the other end. I didn't try and glue the whole piece at once because it needs to be on there just right. And it doesn't just snap in or fit in. It's just kind of balancing. But once I got those 2 pieces on, it fit. So next on my notes, I did say the wheels I didn't chip, but I actually did. But my first coat was Tamiya light gray primer, and then the desert yellow. So when you do the chipping, it kind of doesn't really show up that well. So it looks nice, but I'm going to do some extra chipping with dark gray. So that's it so far. Stay tuned. I'll keep you posted. Thanks for watching.